recruiting. So we have 5-star offensive tackle Jonathan Daniels. We'll be visiting. Is it this weekend or is it a couple weekends from now in March? Do you know?
I think it was this weekend.
This weekend, I hope so, because this one DJ is going to be there. So On3 has him as the number 1 offensive tackle, 5-star. We know Cam Pringle was the number 1 offensive tackle, who was a 4-star according to 247. Obviously, these ratings will probably adjust throughout the year. We expect that. Right now, On3 has him as a 5-star, ranked 9th nationally, and the number 1 offensive tackle. Right now, he's got Florida State as his top offer at 31%, and then Florida has him at 24 according to On3's percentage. Look, I know we have our differences on 247 and On3. I do like what On3, how they have their percentages a little bit more. It's a little bit cleaner look. I do enjoy those. And sometimes it favors us, the On3 does, over 247, so I'll go to On3 for that. And look, he's going to be visiting this weekend. I say this, I preface this every time before I go into it. You guys probably already know I'm a broken record. I might as well just put it as a button. How we don't land these 5-star studs is crazy. I feel like this is a must-get, in my opinion. We're going to talk about Jerrick Gibson in just a minute, the number 1 running back. But to me, this is a big one, right? With being the number 1 offensive tackle, number 2, however you want to look at it, doesn't really matter to me. When you've got DJ Lagway, who's been very vocal about landing top offensive tackles, okay, with having a monster running back room right now, Montrell and Trevor and Trayon, okay? I mean, a 3-headed absolute beast, in my opinion, on top of Bowens, who right now is committed to the class, okay? A lot of studs. A lot of great offense. Multiple offensive lineman coaches, right? We have to finally land one of these guys. That's got to be a priority, in my opinion, for Florida and Billy. This one, to me, is probably the number 1 must get. Just because with Cam Pringle off the board, who we lost to South Carolina with, that one hurt a little bit, right? We're missing out on talent. Now, we can make up for it. I know we've got a couple guys from Ponte Vedra, 3 stars, things like that. But just simply to calm the noise of Gator Nation, landing a 5-star offensive tackle after the misses we had last year would be absolutely huge. So,
yeah, you got to make a statement in this class, especially the way that you started. And on top of that, as a quarterback, a 5-star quarterback as well, the first 2 things you should be looking for is your receiver. It should be offensive line first, because you want to be protected. You want to have those guys in front of you to protect you so you can throw the football. Second should be your receivers. Obviously, the running backs do help out the quarterback, hand the ball off, takes less pressure off the quarterback, especially if they can get 5-6 yard chunks or a 10-yard chunk, whatever. But as you said, the start that you have to this 2024 class, you got to keep going. And it's only March. Obviously, anything could happen. Flips could happen. You could get a recruit, maybe a 3-star recruit, but then later on get a 5-star or something like that. But, as a quarterback, that's exactly what you want, is you want your offensive line to be able to block for you. And on top of that, get you some wide receivers, tight ends as well. But the first priority for a quarterback, in my opinion, would probably be offensive line. So and you got a 2025 kid here too, joining, visiting on campus, a 5-star guy, offensive tackle Mason Short there. Of course, that's a year out. So your primary target is going to be your 2024 kids right now. And getting Daniels there would start the trifecta of other offensive tackles, other offensive linemen, internal offensive linemen, wanting to come to Florida as well. I mean, flipping Roderick Kearney last year was huge. Unfortunately, down the stretch, we couldn't get Sampson, and Francis still stayed with Miami.
Sampson
we all know that
would have been a great addition.
That whole ordeal, but luckily we hit the transfer portal pretty good with offensive linemen.
100%. I think he's done a great job with that, and that to me speaks volumes. Look, if you're pulling these guys, he's like the Keontae Goodwin 5/4-star from Kentucky was a big pull. Again, done a great job in the transfer portal, and I'm not worried about this year, but it's why can't we recruit these guys? What are we missing? And that's what the question marks are going to start raising if we can't land one of these, right? I mean, D-line as well. Harrison Sanchez says the same thing, have to land. I agree. Look, and sometimes we get caught up in the stars, right? And I find myself doing it too because it's flashy, it's exciting, it gets us fired up. I would honestly be okay if we land 2 good 4-stars as well too, right? But when you've got a guy like this who's committed to Florida State, we should be able to beat out Florida State, in my opinion. They got Florida State, Miami, I think, is involved as well. But we should not be losing to Florida State. Florida State has not been a proven record to recruit well. Transfer portal, I would be okay losing to Norvell in the transfer portal. That's acceptable. We can't lose to Florida State on the recruiting trail. That's just, you can't lose to a girls' school. No way it's going to happen. Real quick,
you can't lose to your rivals anyway, and even in state.
Yeah, we can't do that. Make sure you guys, again, show some love here. We got over 150 in the chat. Please drop a like. Means a lot to us. Helps us out. and show some love. Really appreciate it, guys. Next, obviously, is Jerrick Gibson. It looks like it's set in stone. He's been Wiltfonged, which is basically a lock. I don't think he's missed any this year. Maybe one this year. Is he perfect this year? Let me.
He hardly misses, but I don't
Oh,
know about this year. I haven't checked his record.
He's 91.36 for 2024 picks. I don't know who he got wrong, but I'm sure that kid dropped 15 spots after the fact. So
only if he told him he was going somewhere and he didn't go.
Oh, Nicholas Harbor committed to South Carolina. That's what happened. Okay. I'm looking at all of his predictions right now. I don't know who he missed on. It doesn't show me. I'm not going to go through everybody. But the guy doesn't miss, and he has crystal balled Jerrick Gibson, the number one running back from Gainesville. Okay, literally our backyard, to Texas. So this one hurts a little bit. I think we can all say. But I remember before all this noise came out that he was a money guy, that he was chasing dollar bills. This would be the back-to-back classes for Texas and landing the number one running back, which is impressive. Okay, that to me is kind of, look, you just had Bijan Robinson, who's going to be a phenomenal NFL quarterback or running back. Excited to see him play. Maybe that's speaking some volumes. Obviously, landing Arch Manning last year helps a little bit. I know they landed some great offensive linemen as well too, but it seems, look, there is a point here, and I know I'm going to get flack for this too, because this is the typical fan move, right? It doesn't go your way. You kind of talk it off the ledge, like no big deal, right? It doesn't matter. It does, from my conversations with DJ Lagway and just the noise from this, it was always a fan want, not necessarily maybe a coaching want. And what I mean by that is, obviously, we see the stars, we see where he's located. We go, this is a no-brainer. He was already committed to Florida, right? Seems like it should be like an absolute lock. But there is a point where maybe Florida's not interested, right? Maybe what he's asking for and what Florida's willing to break with is, hey, I'm not ready to, I don't want to do that. And we're never going to know that. We'll never know that. We'll never see that. Billy's not going to come out and say, yeah, we didn't pursue Jerrick. Like, once we had him on campus, it wasn't the same. The vibe wasn't there. He didn't fit into the culture. We'll never know that. I'm not saying that's the case. But even when we had a Lagway on, I go, hey, what about Jerrick? Yeah, he's a great guy. We had him on. He spoke more about other players. Jeremiah Smith, he's brought up before. He's brought up, obviously, a lot of offensive linemen. He spoke about Stacey Gage. These guys he brought up, right, where I had to bring Jerrick Gibson up. And Jerrick Gibson was there. We played Madden, and he was there like that 2 days ago, right? And again, this isn't a knock, but there's more to this than just always a star, right? Chauncey Bowens, obviously being a 4-star running back, doesn't have the star or the one next to his name, but he is being highly sought after, right?
Yeah.
And I think, and you spoke to that kind of before the show, is, look, he's a stud. And that could be part of it too. It's like, look, I think we want to get one more, but he might be the guy. And Jerrick's like, I'm not here to share. I could argue, well, why are you going to Texas that just landed the number one running back from 2023? I mean, you're going to be fighting reps with that guy too. But what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, you talked before this. There are kids out there that doesn't matter where they're from. They could be from any part of the United States, even Hawaii, whatever. And some of them are just all about that. They're all about the NIL, want the money wherever the money takes them at. And then there's some kids that will take a little bit less and go where they want to go, as opposed to just going to whoever gives them the most money. And I look at it this way. I'm like, I would rather go to a school that I know I will enjoy the next 4 years of my life at, even if they offer me a little bit less, as opposed to some place that I'm not too certain about and it's far away from home, but they're going to give me this and that and the other. But that's just how I think. But there's other kids that think just in that whole realm of, just NIL, and this is kind of what we're living in right now. And you heard Billy Napier say he's not going to get into bidding wars. Does that change a little bit down the stretch? Maybe if something happens, like say your recruiting class is tanking. I'm not going to say that that's going to happen, but it could. And then you're going to have to decide, well, should I go after some of these kids that are about the NIL and bring in some other kids that aren't really about the NIL, because he's trying to change the culture there too. But as far as like Jerrick Gibson, even if he goes to Texas. I mean, Chauncey Bowens, as you said, he moved up. I think it was like 180 spots on three. He's up there now, and he's really sought out by Kirby Smart visited him. He's got offers from Alabama. He's got offers from everywhere. So I mean, obviously that is a good talent to have, and right now it's still the beginning of the process. It's still the beginning of the recruiting class. You don't even know where Chauncey Bowens is going to wind up by the end. He could be a 5-star by the end. We don't know.
Sure.
But I look at it this way: is like if you take one running, if you want to take two, and Chauncey Bowens winds up being in the top 50 or in the top 100, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I mean, as a running back, that's pretty good. If you can bring on somebody else inside of that top 250, 200, or even better, I'm not upset about it. Like it doesn't bother me. I mean, even Trevor Etienne, I don't even think he was in the top 100 being recruited. I mean, like
No, I don't believe that he was.
more running backs are rated highly based on their speed and their size. Like sometimes, like, you could have size and not speed, be ranked like 150 and be one of the best running backs out there in college football. I mean, we see Marshawn Lynch. He wasn't the fastest guy, but like, dude, guy's plowing people over
Beast
a cow.
mode, baby.
You know?
Something too, like I think, and this comment here kind of nails it on the head, right? Character guys are going to be so much more valuable in the age of NIL. So how I look at this is think about, let's compare this to the NFL because that's kind of where we're headed, right? Is you've got your personalities like an OBJ who are going to ask for a lot of money. They're big characters in the locker room. And Terrell Owens, a Chad Ochocinco. Those guys are hard to manage. There is coaches that can manage it, and then it's almost like these teams get a steal because like how do they get this superstar, right? Like why didn't somebody else like a Patriots go out there and get them, right? We'll see like why aren't other teams going after it? Well, that coach won't fit with that personality. Jimmy Johnson was great at managing big personalities. That's what he did. He was great at coaching like that. Tom Coughlin, much better at your kind of your low key guys, right? Who aren't going to ask for the big contracts. We saw that with New England, right? Like a Tom Brady example, always took less money. Joey Burrow right now is taking less money to make sure he can win championships. There isn't a right or wrong way of doing it. I just think, however it fits your system. Billy has been pretty adamant, like you said, not getting into bidding wars and working on building a culture that is more bought into a long-term thing. And again, a brotherhood. Every guy we've had on has talked about that, the feeling in the room, the vibes, right? And where somebody like Rashada's situation would have came in, and who knows if he would have thrown the vibes off, right? So that is kind of where I was at. The noise if he ends up going to Texas is going to be an uproar from Florida fans, from the kind of like guys that aren't here, that aren't kind of dialed in listening to us talk about it, who just see it happening, or Billy sucks, he can't get it done. They're not going to look at it from that, into that point of view. And I think that is something important to note, because I heard pretty early on that he was about the money, which is fine. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. He's not going to fit into that culture. And I think Billy notices that pretty quickly and goes, I'm not going to waste any time, because of how quickly he went from being a Florida prospect to the weekend that he visit. Radio silence. We didn't hear any more about it. He wasn't really talking about it. He dropped down on 247 and on 3 on where he was going to be landing very quickly. It just kind of went hush, which tells me the visit didn't go, I think, as like both parties planned.
Yeah, and maybe the staff told him that maybe he's not a good fit there either. So that could have been
very much
it there as well.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. For how quickly he went from being at Florida, he was committed. He commented, said this is home, to just being, I'm going to Texas, literally within like a week and a half. Tells me it wasn't that Florida or Billy dropped the ball. There's more to it that we just can't see.
And we also got to look at it too. It's just a crystal ball, so that doesn't necessarily. I mean,
it's Wilfong.
It is Wilfong, but he has been wrong before. I mean, but it's still it's. I don't look at crystal balls this like entirely too early like this. Even if he was to commit to Texas right now, I mean, you still have what March. You got all the way to National Signing Day, February, early signing day, December. All that, like, so much could happen between now and then. And I'm not saying he would flip to Florida, or he could flip somewhere else. We don't know. As far as like I don't get too worried about recruiting this early in the cycle, because you're going to have kids that are going to decommit, flip. It happens every cycle. I'm not saying he's going to do that, and I'm not saying he's not going to go to Texas. But as far as I'm concerned with like the just crystal balls from this perspective this early, I don't really get too concerned about it. But as I said, the staff maybe could have told him, hey, you may not be a great fit here. You might want to go look elsewhere. And maybe Wilfong got whiff of that or something like that, and then put in the crystal ball for Texas. We don't know. This is all just a guessing game at this point.
Sure.
But as I said, Chauncey Bowens in your class right now, We'll see where he goes. Hopefully he stays in the class. Looks like maybe he might, but
Sure.
it's just way too early to overreact on just recruiting as a whole right now.
Absolutely. And Harrison Sanchez says, anything new on Jeremiah Smith? The only thing, the last we heard is he's visiting sometime this month. Was he on that list that you sent me? I don't think that he was. I know DJ's trying to get him this weekend while he's there. I think that was the agenda, and I would hope he goes this weekend. If the weekend that he goes, this is the weekend that I want him to go, because obviously the 5-star offensive tackle is going to be there. If we could also team that up with Jeremiah Smith, that would be huge. I would love to pull Jeremiah Smith too. Again, I'm not going to be bought into these guys. Offensive tackles, the trenches, that's kind of what I'm more bought into right now. I think DJ is going to do a great job putting the other pieces together, especially with Chauncey Bowen and Darius Hayes. I think we're making the right moves and getting the right pieces put together. So